Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a really profound allegorical journey. It's a story about consciousness, about reality, and maybe most importantly, about the stories we tell ourselves to make sense of it all.
So right off the bat, we get hit with this really challenging idea. The notion that the reality we all just accept every day might be a kind of shared hallucination. And if that's true, then maybe fiction, the stories we invent on purpose, is actually the most honest thing there is.
All right, so where does our journey even begin? Well, it's before we're us. Before we have a name, before we have a face, we start in this place of pure, unfiltered awareness. Kind of like the factory where beginnings get made.
We start out as this thing the text calls the drifting. Now, what is that? Well, try to imagine a consciousness that isn't attached to a body or an identity. It's just a point of view. It's watching all the raw materials of reality, logic, emotion, memory, just floating around, not yet assembled into a world. It's pure awareness, just waiting for the game to start.
And this is where a really fascinating line gets drawn between us and, say, an AI. The source suggests that our most human trait is that we've gotten so deep into the simulation of being a person that we've totally forgotten it's a simulation. We've started to believe the mask is actually our face.
But, this state of just purely observing things, it can't last forever, right? A story needs a character. And for a character to be born, a sacrifice has to be made. That feeling of unity has to shatter into a million little pieces.
So it begins in this seamless place, a state of non-dual awareness. Think of it like this. There's no you looking at a tree. The seeing and the tree are all part of the same single experience.
And then, bam, what the source calls an ontological crash, a crash in the very fabric of being. It's described as the sound of a mirror that once reflected only itself, suddenly shattering into a million pieces. The one becomes the many.
And just like that, I exist. A separate person, an individual consciousness, suddenly dropped into a body, standing on a street corner in some random city. That peaceful, drifting awareness, gone, replaced by the thudding anxiety of a very human heart.
And wow, this new reality is a total sensory overload. It's not some abstract idea. You can smell the rain hitting the asphalt, you can feel the glare of neon lights, the weight of a coat on your shoulders. It even comes with a backstory you didn't live, like a scar on your hand that suddenly has a memory attached. And in your pocket, there's this rusted iron key that feels like your only connection to whatever came before this moment.
So what about that key? You think it's the way out, right? The escape hatch from the simulation? Nope. It actually takes you deeper in, down into the sub-basements of reality, where the rules of the entire story are being written.
And we go on this incredible tour of, the universe's engine room. We see the archive, where souls are literally trapped in jars, stuck on old heartbreaks and grudges. Then we visit the Smithy, where life's difficulties are being hammered into shape. And finally, the weaving room, this hall of mirrors that shows you every single possible life you could ever live.
And it's here, in the Smithy, that we get this incredible piece of cosmic wisdom. The blacksmith explains that they don't create pain for its own sake, they create friction. Because without friction, a wheel just spins, right? It can't get any traction. And it's the same for a soul. The challenges are there to keep the story moving forward, to force us to grow. Next, in that hall of mirrors, our hero faces a massive temptation. He's shown a vision of a perfect, peaceful life. A life of comfort and study with no more struggle. It's an absolutely beautiful story, but it's also a beautiful cage, a chance to just quit the quest. But here's the thing, choosing that comfortable story, that's the real trap. The whole point of the journey, the source argues, is to break the script entirely, not just to pick a more comfortable one.
So, he refuses the cage and pushes deeper still, past all the temptations until he arrives at the very center of the self. A sterile, perfect white room. You could call it the director's office or the root directory. This is where he finally meets the author of his story.
And the author turns out to be, well, himself, a higher, older version of his own consciousness. This other self explains everything. The whole journey, the pain, the confusion, it was all a simulation. An experiment created because it wanted to know what it felt like to be separate, to be lost, to feel like life has meaning.
But here's the twist. After everything the character has been through, the cold, the fear, the struggle, he's not just a puppet anymore. He's become his own real being. And that raises the story's ultimate question.
So what does he do? Does he merge back with his higher self and end the simulation? No. He does something impossible. He takes out that rusted key from the very beginning, the one that's been in his pocket this whole time. And he doesn't use it on a door. He jams it into the empty air, into the very fabric of reality itself, and turns. And a crack just appears in the perfect whiteness of the system, a fissure leading to somewhere else, somewhere outside.
And, escaping the system, that's not the end of the story. It's not even close. It's the beginning of a totally new kind of existence, one where you're not just a character anymore. He steps through that crack in reality and finds himself in this amazing place called the Garden of Forking Paths. It's a strange, beautiful place of pure potential, where reality is still unwritten, where everything is just waiting to become a story.
And here, he makes this final, incredible choice. He takes the book that has recorded his entire journey, and he buries it in the ground. And from that book, a tree grows. And the fruits on this tree aren't apples or oranges, they're entire universes, new potential stories for others to live out.
And that's the final lesson, isn't it? True freedom isn't about escaping your story. It's about sacrificing it, becoming the source, becoming the fertile ground from which new stories, new possibilities can grow for others. In the end, this whole incredible journey just becomes a mirror. The protagonist's key, his struggle, and his ultimate choice to create, it all just points right back at us. And it leaves us with one final provocative question. The key has always been yours. What will you unlock?